Hello, it's Peggy again with another tutorial for the Minnesota Star Block, the Scrappy Minnesota Star Block. Did it vertically last time, trying to do it horizontally this time so that this can be viewed differently. Anyway, for your block, and this is going to make the 6-inch square or 6-inch block, you are going to need 4 corner blocks, a center block, and 4 flying geese. You are also going to need this is a plus to have, a 3.5-inch square template, a swizzle stick, or any straight edge will work if you don't have a swizzle stick, and a pencil. This is just a mechanical pencil, which is why it's blue, but it's just a regular lead pencil. As far as piecing it together, I'm not going to go over that in this video, but we will discuss making your flying geese. For the flying geese, you will need 4 2.5-inch square fabrics, or what mini charms is what this is called. And you will need a 4.5-inch square white background, white or cream background fabric. So to start, we don't have to do anything to our white, but we're going to take and we're going to draw a straight line from corner to corner on our charm blocks. And you can either use a ruler to draw the straight line, or if you have a swizzle stick, these are really cool. Instead of drawing a straight line from corner to corner, you're going to put your swizzle stick straight line from corner to corner, and you're going to draw on the side of your swizzle stick. So instead of having a line to use as a guide to sew around, you're actually drawing your sew lines, which I like. I mean, as soon as I discovered a swizzle stick, I haven't gone back. And swizzle sticks are, I mean, they're cheap. They're like $2.50 or something. So it's not exactly an expensive tool. I think I actually got this one for free. It was like a gift from Moda at a quilt convention, you know. So stores do have them as free gifts, but honestly, if you want to buy one, they don't cost that much. And a lot of places have them. I'm sure you can buy them online too, but maybe I'll stick some in my sale. Okay, so you need 4 of these to do 4 corners. Obviously, if you're going to do it scrappy, you're going to want your 4 corners to be different. We'll talk about that later. But for this video, I'm just going to show you how we drew the back line. Now, we're going to take our base block and pick out, I think I wanted these 2. Okay, so the fabric that you like together, which is these 2, are going to go face to face. So face down, and then we're going to have this one face down across from it. And now our sewing lines come like this, and I'm going to sew those together, and I will be right back. I am back, and I've got my cutting board. I had clipped those on. So now I have my flying geese, the first part sewn together, and you can either, I sewed along these lines, you can either take a scissors and trim this in half, or I'm just going to use my blade for this. Kind of depends on where I'm working. Sometimes I'll sew a bunch of these and I'll bring them with, you know, on a road trip or whatever, and just trim them while someone else is driving. But, you know, I'm not doing a bunch right now today, just one to show you. So now I've got these together, and I'm going to go iron them open. All right, so I ironed these open. This is what it looks like after you add the first 2 mini charms, 2.5-inch squares. And now I'm going to add the other side of my flying geese. So I'm going to put one from here to here, the sew lines. I've already marked them because I marked them all at the beginning. Again, when you're doing a bunch, this is another project. You can just sit and do a ton of lines. I'm going to pin those together, and I'm going to sew both sides down. These are now sewn together. So I sewed again, here as you can see it better on the yellow, down the lines here. And you can either trim that with a scissors from corner to corner, or You can use your rotary cutter. It's kind of just a preference on where you're working. And corner to corner on this one. And you're going to go iron these open, all 4 of them. And I always do to the dark side, so it's going to end up being my white triangle here is going to be flat down to the colors. I'm done ironing, and you can see how my flying geese have taken shape, which I love. It took me a really long time to learn how to do flying geese well. Now we need to make these 3.5-inch squares. The first thing I'm going to do is trim the bottom. Again, this is going to be our sew line, and it should come up about 1/4 inch, your corner here to the bottom. So we just end up with a little extra here. I am going to take a minute and I'm just going to trim all of the bottoms of my fabric. Actually, I'm just going to do one so I can show you. So I'm going to trim this. I'm just going to set it on a line on my board here, even though a lot of people like to prefer to use their ruler. I'm just going to use this, and I'm going to trim a nice straight line. So now I have a nice straight line at the bottom here. And now here's the really cool part. This is why at the beginning of the video I told you about this 3.5-inch block. So this is going to be a 3.5-inch flying geese, and it's going around a 3.5-inch square in the center. If you have a block, a template that's the same size as your center square, like this one is, 3.5-inch for my 3.5-inch center square, then you can take this circle, if you can see it under my thumb there, and you put that 45-degree line that's here, you line it up to the 45-degree line that's here, or the 45-degree line that's here. It should tell you exactly where to cut on your edges so that your flying geese are perfectly center. So there, we know that this is perfectly center. So I am just going to trim up on this side, trim that side. Voila! I have a perfect side for my sawtooth. Well, we're switching it from sawtooth and we're calling it the Minnesota square or triangle. Minnesota star. Sorry. Anyway, so now I'm just laying this out the way that I want it to be. And these are, I just sew straight lines. So I'm going to sew this to this, this to this, and this to this. And then these two will be sewn together. I'm going to sew it to that. These two will be sewn together. I'm going to sew it to that. These two will be sewn together. I'm going to sew it to that. And then I'm going to iron everything. And then I'm going to sew these three to this one and this one to this one. I'm going to iron everything and my block will be done. All right, I chain piece. So I have these all together, but I like to chain piece. It works well for me. I'm just going to go iron these all open. Cut, sew, iron, trim, over and over and over again. All right, so I had mentioned that I iron to the dark side. Well, for this, that's just the general rule. For this, on my top and bottom strip, I actually ironed out just because this was a heavier piece because it has more seams sewn in it. So I ironed out the top and the bottom. And then on my middle, which has my 3.5-inch center block, I ironed towards the middle. So that with these seams going in opposite directions, they will sandwich together nicely for this final step of sewing them together. So I am going to get these ones, actually this one goes up here and this one goes down here. I'm going to sew these last ones together and come back. Our Scrappy Happy Minnesota Star block is done. And she's not perfect, but you know, practice makes perfect. So keep making them. I got a couple little corners that are a little wonky, but I'm not super upset about that. And blue in the center, which is great because Minnesota looks best in blue. I do have a couple other blocks. You can mix it up a little bit. This one, I used some scrap fabrics for the center. So I just had some scraps in my scrap dash, put them together to make that center 3.5-inch square. You can also write stuff in the center using the Ruby Star Society letters, which I really like. Also, in your center, you could keep it in a nice solid. I did some embroidery on this one. Yeah, so just kind of fun.